By the power vested on me by the government of the Republic of Kenya, African Marriage and Divorce Act, Cap 151, and the Church of Jesus Christ, for the very first time, I now present to you, hallelujah, the newest and hottest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Ngofo. Hallelujah!
Welcome back to Life in Style. We're on the segment This Is Us right here. You know you should follow us on our social media platforms at KTN_Life_Style for both Twitter and Instagram, KTN Life and Style for Facebook. You could also follow me at CJ@Temo. Well, on This Is Us, I always meet out with couples and then they tell us their story. I don't do much talking, they do the most of the talking. And we're just about to get into the month of love, which is February. Today I am privileged, or rather this morning I'm privileged to have a couple very different from the ones that we've been having, you know, all over the place. We've got a DJ today. Gigi and Jazz. Yeah. How you doing?
We're doing fine.
You're right. How long have you guys been married? Or together? Oh, you know.
We've been married for...
I'm curious, how long have we been together? Let me see.
We've been together? We've been together for 5.5 years.
Hey,
yes.
Look at you. Eh?
I'm right, eh?
Married for 4.
Married for 4 years.
Yeah.
I get people sometimes who don't know how long they've been together.
Yeah.
You know, so you find that the ladies' version is different from the guys'
Yeah,
version.
like they don't know when they started to date. No, ours was very clear.
It was clear.
Yeah.
Especially before we got married, we already knew the time that we had started dating. So it was very evident.
All right. Did you meet at the point where you, like 5 years ago, or you had known each other before?
We knew each other.
We knew each other before.
But we weren't, you know how they say your best friend becomes, you know, like your partner. It wasn't that. We just used to see each other at events.
Okay.
So we'd known each other for 3 years before that. Yeah.
All right. By events, what do you mean?
Like, well, maybe I'd see him maybe twice, 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, go for an event somewhere, there's like someone performing.
Yeah.
And it's like, Gigi, it's like Jazz, and we take a picture.
Yeah.
And then we even had each other's numbers, but
We never called each other.
yeah, because we were just, it's just the guy you see at
Yeah.
events. Yeah.
So we used to do an event called Mad Love Lounge.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was an event where we used to showcase young talent in a Christian environment.
Yeah.
So that's where we actually got to meet. She had just come back from Spain.
Yeah. And Gigi was the resident DJ.
And I was the
Mad Love.
resident DJ
Yeah.
from Mad Love Lounge. So that was back in 2010, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when now we got to know each other, but we never had any contacts or anything like that.
So at one point, did the whole thing shift?
I would say, he says for him it shifted a while back, but he was like testing me, and I used to anguka.
Yeah.
I really used to feel that test. Anyway, but I think it shifted when I had a get together in my house.
Yeah.
For the whole of Mad Love, like it was like a reunion because we hadn't had an event in a while. And so I invited around maybe 20, 25 people to sleep over, and it was guys and ladies. So anytime there's that environment for guys and ladies, people won't sleep. Everyone is talking about relationships. People have questions, and I always tell people that's the night I caught Gigi staring at me like 3 times. Yeah. It was very awkward at first because like, no, I thought I was just here with my brothers, my sister, you know, but yeah, and then now you even start feeling uptight, but yeah, that's when we started now vibing, I think the day after.
I think for me on my side, I had gone for these events for a very long time. I was single for very long.
Oh my gosh,
you know.
The longest. When we started dating, people were celebrating me in his life. So I think they'd given up on Gigi, you know?
I just reached a point where I was focused on what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be in the media. I knew I wanted to do DJing. So I was just focused on that. But during that time, especially that 3-year period that we knew each other, you know, I was just, when we were doing events, I was like, oh, this looks like a good girl, you know. And the only thing is that, you know, what she said, I was sizing her up because she's very bubbly with people and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I was just like, hey, if she's bubbly with people like this, I wonder, you know, if, you know, she's my girlfriend, is she's going to be still bubbly with other people? You know, I'm going to share the bubbliness with others, you know, but
That's straight up honest.
Yeah,
it's honest, you know.
And that was one of the questions he asked her that evening that we had that gathering. It was just like, oh guys, tell me, what if she's too bubbly? And then that's when you're just thinking, this question is so directed at me here. So,
But
yeah.
the bubbliness was a good thing, you know, much later, because, you know, we were able to gel well, we were able to be good friends, and, you know, just be able to hang out and have fun together.
All right.
So that's when, you know, I just sized her up, and eventually in 2013 is when I asked her out.
But you know, you talk about having stayed alone for long and you were focused on what you wanted to do. Was that as a result of certain experiences, or it was just a determination or a fear that you had? You know, what informed your choice to be alone for that long?
Well, I dated someone back in the day when I was in campus, and it wasn't necessarily a good experience, but we dated for like, I think, 2 months. So it wasn't really, you know, I wouldn't call it, you know, a very solid relationship. But after that, I just realized that I felt like I was too young to, you know, to get into a relationship, and I felt that I needed to also build myself, you know, before I actually meet them, so that when they're coming, they're finding me when, you know, I'm
even if you're like not established fully, but like
in my purpose,
like in his
yeah, in my purpose,
working towards it.
Exactly,
at least, yeah.
exactly.
All right, but you know, when you talk about establishment, most people look at it mostly from the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Was that a factor? Was that a factor for you?
No, funny enough.
It was a factor for her
No,
in the
it wasn't
beginning.
in the beginning, but not for us.
Yeah, not for
Yeah.
us.
Oh my gosh, let me say my own story. For me, I had been single for 2 years before we started dating, and it was like intentionally single. Not that I wasn't. Not that there was no one, it's just that I didn't want to date, especially because I knew relationships lead to marriage. But I think one of the deal breakers in my head for the longest time is, it's not that I even wanted a guy with like a Range Rover, it's just that I had my own apartment, because I started living by myself since I was like 20. I was driving, so it just used to be 2004. If I have my house, he should have his, you know, like if I'm driving, he should be driving. And it was I didn't even care like what the car would look like. I think it was just one of those things for, it will cause less problems if we are from the same type of background, or so I thought. And it's so interesting because the December before we started vibing, because we started vibing in January, God really just laid it on my heart that I was still trying to like advise him, you know, like I'm like, oh, I'm surrendered to God with this area, but I'm still like, okay, but God, if he's like this, or if he has it, okay, but you're God, you know. And so I remember that day I was just seated, and God is just like, you still haven't fully surrendered to me, because you're not okay with me dictating how your story would be. Meaning that if the guy came, you know, and he wasn't driving and all those things, how would you receive them? And so, yeah, that's how I think all those like deal breakers were shattered for me in that December. And I was just like, you know what, every good and perfect gift is from above. I don't want anything that isn't from God. So,
all right.
yeah.
This was nearly, I nearly want to, I don't like you know, calling people, I don't like generalizing, you know, stereotyping. But Jazz was nearly what you'd nearly call an independent kind of a girl.
Yeah.
You know, she's used to doing her own stuff. She's been having her own apartment. She's been making her own decisions. You're coming into that life. How was that transition for you, handling this girl who actually is used to making her own decisions, right? Yeah.
I remember there's a time that before we started going out, when we were in this platform where we used to meet with young guys, you know, for the event. We used to sit down as young people and just talk.
Actually, yes.
It was a Bible study.
Yeah.
Mad Love Bible study. And I remember the pastor then who was the one leading, we had invited him for that forum, Pastor James Okumu. Big shout out to him. Pastor James Okumu asked a question, and he was like...
after he shared his story.
Yeah, actually, after he shared his story was very powerful. And he was like, how many of you ladies would marry a guy who stays in a Mabati house?
I was at the same meeting, but I did not lift up my hand.
Yeah, so he asked, you know, how many. So she did. Well, did you? You didn't?
I did. No one
She
did. Actually,
some
no
of
one
them.
did.
Some of them did. Some of them didn't.
No, no one did. None of the ladies did.
Are you sure?
None.
None of the ladies.
The Lord needed to work on us at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, I was just looking around. I'm like, obviously, all the guys would be like, hey. No, because most of the guys at that point are still trying to develop themselves. Yeah. So, you know, it was to our surprise, most of the guys were like, yeah, basi hapa is tricky, you know. But I think that memory was still in my head of, okay, then, you know, Jasmine is this independent lady that I can't be able to reach. And fast forward to, I think, 2012 is when, you know, I just started gathering courage, because in my head I knew that the person who was supposed to be the one, my wife, would accept me the way I am.
Yeah.
Whether I'm from, because I'm from Eastlands, if I'm from Eastlands and you don't necessarily feel where I'm from, you know, then maybe you're not the one. You know, so acceptance for me was a big thing. You have to accept me for who I am, for what I'm about. You know, I don't have necessarily your conventional type of job. You know, I don't work in a bank or anything. I'm in the arts. Yeah. So you have to definitely agree with who I am. And so that was after she was worked on by the Lord.
Because funny enough, that December, I'm telling you that I fully surrendered my heart to God. It was it's like the remembrance was James Okumo preaching. Yeah. So it's like what the question he'd asked then now made sense that December, years later. So, yeah.
But you know, I've got to say to you out over there that where somebody lives is not as important as the mentality. So, you know, don't judge someone like that's an Islander. No, you could be anywhere but have the right mentality, right? Yeah. Well, what matters is what is in somebody's mind, their vision, not their background. But then now you in events, how is that? You know, it's like your life is a public life. Then you've got to have this private life of dating, then leading into marriage. How was that, especially in the initial stages before we get into the adjustments that you had to make when you got married?
I was popular, but not that popular. Because at that point, I think I just had a radio show.
Yeah, because when we met, most people don't know this, but Gigi got his opportunity, the show he works on, when we were vibing. Yeah. So literally everything that's happened in his life happened when we were together. Yes. So I think we kind of grew together, like in terms of getting used to, oh, maybe we're walking somewhere and then someone recognizes him or something like that. But I feel like it was not a big thing for us.
It wasn't a big thing, but for me it was a prayer.
Yeah.
Actually, that before I reach that place where, you know, I'm you know, maybe this big DJ or whatever, I wanted to at least be with someone, like in a solid relationship, so that it's easier, you know, for me to operate, because it's very easy to lose your mind, you know, when you're on events and stuff like that, and, you know, ladies are looking at you.
Yeah, and it also helps the person, knowing the person you're with, because like for Gigi, he's the type of guy, even like when we were friends, like this is the brother that gives you church hugs. You know, you're coming in from the front, you just find yourself on the side. So I think even like for me, like at that time when we started dating, and even if we ran into women of any sort, like it's always, I never used to worry on the side, like, oh my gosh, is he feeling up on them? Because it was always, side, you know, so side hugs, or he'll insist we are all in a selfie or something like that, which I didn't mind not being into. It's just that I think it helps. I've always liked his heart because he's always been very grounded. So I feel like that for us wasn't an issue as much.
For your family or your friends, so you're coming in and saying, I'm getting married to a DJ. Was that an issue?
No, funny enough, I think because my family is, we don't have conventional jobs, like everyone is in business. So I think when the minute we started dating, especially knowing this was like one of the first guys like I told my mother about from the start, you know. And she was okay with it. If anything, she used to watch your show like every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
My future son.
And then I think what people found funny, especially in my family, is because he's called Gigi, and my nickname since I was a kid was Chichi. So like for me, my mother, it was just destiny. Like everywhere we go, we always, and then we look alike. So everywhere we used to go, like family events, she always be like, even before we got married, it's like, oh, these are my last born twins. You know, so they were really open. Yeah.
And I think another thing is her sister is married to an acrobat.
Yeah, so we just we're all over the place. Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Mine is at least.
All right, but you got the same support for your family. Nobody worried that you were getting a lady that was, you know, like you said initially, you're thinking, will I break the class barrier? It's a perception sometimes, but was that easy for you with your family, your friends, people around you?
I think, let me say it was easy because they knew the kind of person that I was. When I'm making decisions, I'm not making decisions that don't make sense.
Actually, some of them knew me already.
Okay, some of them knew, especially even the friends knew her already, so they're like, you know,
even your sisters knew me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so I think also growing up in a Christian family, you know, people already start praying before, you know, they start standing in the gap before you get married and stuff like that. So I felt like I had a good covering.
Even before you liked it, because I remember the first time I met your mother, she said she had seen me.
Yes.
She was just waiting for him to say.
Yeah.
You know? So he was the one taking time to tell her.
Exactly. So I definitely didn't have a problem with how she was received.
Yeah.
And also I thank God that she was open, you know, to receive us in our family. And also to receive me, you know, being a guy from East Lando.
Oh my God, she keeps saying that as if it was a thing.
There's this thing about, you know, weddings and their budgets nowadays. You know, when you were getting together, now you're planning your wedding, you're just about to get married. Did you feel the pressure to have this big wedding? You're Gigi, for heaven's sake. Did you have the pressure to do something that is supposed to suit into who you are, and how did you go about that?
When we were organizing the wedding, when we were doing the planning, I remember us trying to figure out how many people are going to come.
Oh,
you know,
gosh,
writing the list, writing it again.
Yeah.
You know, wondering whether we're going to make it a private wedding or a public one. But I think we didn't give ourselves that pressure. If it was up to us, we would have organized a very small wedding.
Yeah, but we knew this was also for the families as much as people like it or not. It's still for the family, especially like for me on my side, my family, both my older siblings had gotten married abroad. So my parents, and I'm the last born, they had never had a wedding, you know, here. So I knew without a doubt that list, there was no way of making it small. They reprinted the cards, they really did. And then even for his side, because you're the second born son, I feel like there was still so much celebration on his side, especially because you've been also single for so long. So I knew there was no way we were going to have a small wedding, but we also didn't want the numbers to get too crazy, like 1,000 people. So ours, we planned for 300, and I think maybe about 5 came. I don't know.
And also, you know, another thing was there's that pressure because of the journey that we have taken, or I have taken, you know, to reach to where I am as a DJ and a host on TV. I didn't want to leave people that I had worked with on the journey. So making it a private wedding, you know, would be such a letdown to those people. So I mean, we're just like, you know, whatever, man. 2,000 people come, that's okay.
What we try to do is just not like making it public on social media.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, I mean, there's still some people who made their way there. Like, I mean, you look at pictures, you're like, who's this?
Or you're dancing, you're
or
like,
you run into someone and they're like, oh, your wedding was the best. And then we have a moment right after they leave, like, you know them, I don't know them.
I know.
So, yeah, we still had those people who still.
All right. But how would you then decide? Okay, so you're deciding on the numbers, but then how do you make the financial decisions concerning the budget for the wedding and the future? Because one of the things that people try to grapple with is how to make their financial decisions. How are you going about that?
I feel for us, one, we didn't have a committee because we really didn't want to pressure people into giving us money.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we didn't. We actually had a committee meeting 2 weeks to the wedding to like allocate duties to like our family members.
It's possible, you know, I never had a committee.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing is that even in spite not having one, we still had so many people who gave to the wedding. And also, one thing we did do, I could say, is we planned for our honeymoon in advance. Like when we got money, we were just like booking our tickets, you know, before putting all this money just into the wedding and then like ending up in the house or something. And then number two, we tried finding out any networks that we had. So for some of the things that we don't have to pay for, let's say for him sound or DJ, you know. And then we have some people like who gave us the chairs, who paid for us the chairs, because they had like chairs. I mean, like we saw, like even when it comes to like the cake itself, I went around looking at bakers. I was not going to pay 100,000 for a cake. So, you know, we paid for the main one, got my friend to bake the other small ones. So I personally, I'm one of those people who always looks for the best deal I can get. So we really made sure we weren't spending everything. And also for anyone who wanted to give us money, like family, we told them to buy things for the house instead. So we had our couch, we had our fridge. So at the end of it, at least the house is furnished. So yeah.
The people who always say, you know, don't buy stuff, give us cash.
Which I think was a good idea because once we were done, I feel like we had pretty much everything for the house.
We came to a furnished house.
Yeah, because we had from everything.
Because either way you're going to get the cash.
Yeah.
Then once you come from honeymoon, you're like, okay, we just have
then
a bed
you spend now the cash. You get it? Because we got everything from our TV to our surround sound, everything from guests. So that was really nice.
I should have been a DJ before I got married. Everybody gave me a glass. Well, I appreciate all of you who came to my wedding.
But there's still those ones, the blenders or the glasses. They still count.
But you can still do a vow renewal.
I don't think people give for that.
They don't do gifts?
They don't.
Well, what was your greatest challenge, if there was any, transitioning from the dating into marriage? Now you're living together. You know, you are up each other's face every day. You're waking up to this person. You go to work, you come back, it's the same person. You're making decisions with them. You're going through changes. The 4 years, how has that been?
I think that for me, I think the first second year was not that bad. But I think we found that I think we fought more in the third and fourth.
Yes, I think so.
For us, it's opposite because most of the couples usually say that
the first year is your hardest. Yeah.
So us, the first year was actually quite good. The second year, I think third and fourth is when we are fighting more.
Yeah. I think it's when it hits you. Wow. Okay, so this person is really like this.
Yeah.
Because I think for the longest time when you're trying to live with someone, is you think that some habits can change. Yeah, and I think now by the third year, it's like, oh, so you're really just not going to change,
so
you know.
Just like this, this is how you're going to be. So I'd rather accept it.
Yes, and then there was like a lot of struggle in the acceptance.
But also there's the change part, which you know, everyone is determined in themselves to actually make a change. You know, if there's maybe a certain behavior that is not, you know, pleasing to the other party. It's good to also make an effort to change. But it's been a journey, let me say that, because we've had our good moments and we've also had our very heated moments. So, and
we've had a lot of very ordinary moments also.
And also ordinary moments. Like, I think they've been the most.
Yeah, because I feel like most people, and I always say this, don't prepare for the everyday normal life. You know, because you're always told it's going to be highs and lows. And I think the ordinary moments are like 80%. So, and that's when you have to like, it's when you find out that, wow, love is a commitment. Like, I'm making a choice to be with this person. And even if the butterflies are not there, now it's like, okay, how can we still, you know, like make this fresh? You know, how can, I feel like now that's where you have to put in work. Yeah, but I feel like we've been trying our best.
We're trying our best, and we are happy at least. We are not perfect.
Nobody is, but I mean, I think it also helps marrying the right person. Because I feel like having issues with the wrong person, I would have been out like so fast, you know. But like every time I think about like our story and how God led us together, whenever we have hard times, I'm just like, okay, then I guess we're gonna work it out. Because divorce is not an option. So
you know, when you mentioned that I would have been out like a long time ago, then I felt like asking you, going back to the 20-year-old who was already in her own apartment and doing her own stuff, does she sometimes pop up somewhere? Was it a decision? Like, I was fine.
One thing is, I am a choleric. So like my temperament is, I can be very controlling, and sometimes control is not bad. It's just, I feel like I can control situations very easily. I don't know if that's a thing. So I feel like there are moments when I do have that feeling for like, wow, okay, I used to do this, I'm doing this now. So like I have to remind myself to be like, okay, take a break, consult, you know. So I think, and his temperament is very child out. He's a very relaxed guy. So it's always, I think the number one thing in our marriage has been having to get used to our personality types. And knowing that he won't make a decision really fast, but I decide like very fast. So now it's like, okay, let's find the middle ground here.
And obviously there are advantages and disadvantages.
Yes, to both sides,
Because, you know, I might be relaxed, but maybe the decision might be a bit more solid because it's been thought over, you know, for some time. It doesn't mean that her decisions are not necessarily right. It's just that maybe she's more being proactive in making the decision.
But then how have you also been able to manage, like, you know, you've got friends, because you're a public person, a bubbly person, all of that, but then you still need your space within marriage. How does one draw those boundaries, or how have you been able to do that?
Well, I think the good thing about also declaring, and also the what I call it, the career that I am in, or let's say whatever I'm doing, being a gospel DJ, you've already declared that, you know, you are representing the Lord, you're representing Christ in whatever you do. So people won't handle you in the same way as just being a DJ. So there's sometimes, you know, you find there's a bit more of that space that you're being given in terms of when somebody's saying hi to you, or, you know, just people will treat you differently because of your faith. You don't get this sometimes, you know, like fans or friends or people, sometimes they develop a sense of entitlement where they nearly feel like they need to be in your space. You know, you need to respond.
I feel like we haven't had that. Also because I think like his closest friends were also in media. And it wasn't even like you met in media, you guys had been through like the journey together, and then they got in media together, so like they understand the space they're all in. And then like for me, we knew him before, and also our circle is very tight. I would say that it's very small, so we never have had issues with friends for, oh, we don't see you or what. I mean, the ones who are close to, we do see, you know. So
I mean, some of my friends my close friends are also not in the country.
At the moment.
In fact, one of them used to be here at KT, and DJ Kroba, my best friend. You know, so I think most of them already were in this space of the public stay in the public eye, so it was easy for us to navigate.
All right. When you have, and we're just now beginning to wind up, when you have to have like an event, and then Jazz wants you had planned a date. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you make that decision? What's the process?
That's this brother. How do you
Here's the thing, it's usually a bit hard because
you say yes to everything.
yeah,
Everything.
I'm a yes
He's
guy.
a yes guy. I'm a
yes
no
guy.
person.
And sometimes you find, and I think it comes back to the question that you asked before.
Yeah.
There are people who are not necessarily close friends, but they are true supporters of whatever you do. So sometimes it's hard to also create that space, for me and my wife, because you find that most times, they'll be like, you can't come for this thing. Always.
Okay, but not all of them are supporters.
No,
Let's say you're making yourself sound very noble.
Let's say most of them.
Anyone who invites him, he goes. What we'll do is our date will be perhaps pushed to a certain, maybe we push it to the next day, or if it does happen, the minute it issues like this, I'm like, hey, Hatwendi home. No, Natunifikie your event. And I'm just like, it's 9, you don't have to go. He's like, let me just show face. He's just that guy who has to show up for everyone.
That has been a bit of a problem, but we're trying to figure it out.
And then also, I wouldn't want to go most times.
Exactly, she wouldn't want to go maybe for that event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, because of the kind of work that I'm doing, that Gigi's presence, has to be felt in that event. People really value that. Maybe someone is launching an album, they'll be like, people will catch feelings, Gigi didn't come. So I'm trying, or I've learned to create that balance.
Learning. Yeah, it's not land. You're learning. Let me just say that. Yeah, because there are times they're like funerals, they're like family things happening, and you still will make it. So he's learning.
But you see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm learning, but I'm trying to also to hug the fact that, I need, if I'm booking a date with Jazz on a specific day, we discuss about it, and we actually set a time and a date.
Yeah.
And if there's any event that comes, I have to now try and plan around that, on a different date.
Okay. In conclusion, what would you say to young people getting out there to date, young couple just started, then they past 1 year, 2 years, then their 3rd year, and then they're beginning to find the friction coming in. In about 30 seconds, what would you say to them?
To married couples, right, or to dating couples?
Both.
Yeah. I mean, to dating couples, I would say find out the purpose early on. I feel like that's one thing people miss out on. You invest all these feelings and time into this relationship, and then like a year on, you're asking yourself, where are we? Do we want the same things in life? Yet you should ask those questions in the beginning before you even invest those feelings, because I love that that's one thing we did, discuss all those things in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because this is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and if you feel that you're not going to be with this person, then why pass time, why waste time? So I would say just be very clear about your intentions from the very get-go.
Right. And for those who are married, Gigi?
For those who are married, I think what I would say is, and I always say this every time, that most of the marriage problems would be solved if people were selfless. Yeah. If you find yourself, or if you're planning to get married, or you're married and you'll be selfish, definitely by the 3rd year, there's a high possibility that you won't be together. So if people can be sacrificial to their spouse and just be selfless and serve your spouse, at the end of the day, I think that will solve a lot of problems, and you'll find that you'll be together for very long.
All right, well, this is a conversation that could go on and on and on, on and on and on. I would love to hear more about it, but that's all the time that we have had on This Is Us. Please follow us on the social media platforms at KTN_Life_Style, and that's for Twitter and Instagram, KTN_Life_Style. The hashtag KTN_Life_Style. Any questions that you have, if you want us to come to you, you could also send us Life&Style, send an email to lifeandstyle@sanamedia.co.ke, and we could tell your story, you could tell your story. Crystal is coming up next to Style with Crystal.